At the peak of King Moon Mountain, a golden axe cuts wood. Surrounded by gigantic piles of wood, the man remarks that he has cut a lot today as well. He glances to the side and a system window appears, stating that he has already cut 3.65 million pieces of wood. He is impressed by the amount but seems unconcerned. Obviously, he is a transmigrator from Earth. He became famous when he was young because of a talent show. However, because he refused to obey the agency's rules, he was abandoned and fell into depression. After that, he was reincarnated as a teacher of runic seals. He knew he was transmigrated and expected to receive a system to live a good life. But what he received was a woodcutting system that only asks him to cut wood. He is basically the god of woodcutting, but in terms of power, he doesn't seem very strong. Someone flies by, calling for the Great Master Bai. The person lands on the pile, destroying his wood, and informs him that the boss has summoned him because the palace examination has started. Bai acknowledges and the person jumps off, destroying his wood again, saying he'll wait for him there. The poor guy knows this is an examination to receive disciples. However, with his potential, no one will want to be his disciple. As he is hungry, he first checks if the creature from the abyss has fattened up. Meanwhile, at the inscription palace, a line forms. Some guys praise the man in the purple robe because he has received over 500 disciples this year. On the other hand, the professor of runic seals hasn't even appeared. That is an important position, so the guys are angry, especially since he hasn't received a disciple in 10 years. He turns to the director and says he wants to remove the position that belongs to Bai Lushan since he hasn't received any disciples. But the old man reminds him not to forget. The boy lost all the power he had protecting the academy. The director's name is Lei Guanqi. They are speechless for a second. But the swordsmanship trainer says they can't forget what the guy did, but he is no longer necessary as a professor. Another one suggests removing his title as a professor and letting him live on King Moon Mountain. People seem to like the idea, saying it's a great plan. Then someone says that everyone thinks too much about him. It's Bai Lushan himself, saying he feels touched by so much affection. Hemming approaches and says that he hurt himself too much just to hunt a small snake like that. Bai explains that this creature had some power and almost killed him. People laugh, saying he has a sense of humor, suggesting that a simple snake could have any kind of power. However, a girl seems anxious about something. From the stake that Bai Lushan is holding, a red aura is emanating. Himi says he is very injured and asks if he wants those healing pills, pointing to the line of disciples, saying if he receives one, he will give them to him. But then he gets close and says that if he doesn't receive any, he will have to give up his position. Our guy ignores him, saying he doesn't care about these games and that he probably won't receive any anyway. However, the guy says he won't leave it like that. He turns to the director again and asks to remove the guy's position because he is weak and doesn't care about disciples. Pointing to Bai, he says that guy must lose his position. Although the director is thoughtful, the others seem to agree that he no longer deserves that position. He then asks the protagonist what he thinks about it. He says it's not such a bad idea, at least he won't have to do anything. All he wants is to stay on King Moon Mountain. But the people, obviously, after he loses his position, will want to take it from him. The director then announces that because Bai Lushan has not accepted a disciple in the last 10 years and also because he is so weak, he is no longer qualified to be a professor. Suddenly someone yells to wait. Everyone turns to see who it is. Very circular, she says she is willing to study and learn about runic seals with Professor Bai. Everyone in the place starts shouting, saying it's a waste. They tell her she doesn't even understand what she's saying properly. Bai Lushan is a trash who doesn't have the ability to teach anything at all. The guy from the sword department makes an offer and says that if she joins them, he will give her the highest position she can get. Bai descended the mountains, but down here, he found a few more. She grabs his arm and begs him to teach her, but he says it's too sudden and refuses. While the sword guy is angry that she refused him, the two of them are going back and forth. He starts to think that the two of them are together, and it's just a plan to make him increase his offer to her. He points to the two and says their plan is very treacherous, and he is not that stupid. He tells the director that he prefers Bai Lushan to stay with the girl. She grabs him all reluctant, but the poor guy was not in the mood for this. He asks her why she wanted to see him as a teacher since he is so weak. Guys, this cutie on the screen was another life of hers because she is an immortal reincarnate. At the end of her past life, she chose to reincarnate because she did not achieve the strength she wanted. She knows that with her beauty and talent, she would receive at least 80% of the sword department's resources. She just didn't expect at the last minute to find a true master. She says that with her immortal eyes, she is sure that Snake was about to become a dragon. Even at the peak strength of her past life, she is not sure she would win against such a creature. So how did this guy with no strength at all win? The old man then coughs and says he is going to make an announcement. Before Bai Lushan can say anything, the disciple is already officially transferred to him. The old man says he helped him a lot, but Bai is angry. He did not want to have a junior. With that, the meeting is over. Himing praised the protagonist and said he was sure she would do very well in the academy exam in 3 months. He goes away laughing like an idiot, and Bai thinks the guy must have hit his head. Bai asks her name and she says it is Su Liu. The poor guy thinks that if he knew he was going to get an apprentice, he wouldn't have come here today. And with that, they leave with him thinking he doesn't have much to do besides giving some tips, since in the end, it all depends on her talent. Back on Mount King Moon, Liu observes the piles of wood and wonders why he lets people mock him if he seems strong. He then calls for her and says there are a few things he needs to make clear. First, in the department of Ruinias, there are no planned lessons since it is all about personal determination. Second, he doesn't want to know where she goes or what she is doing. Third, as she can see, he doesn't have many resources to increase her strength. But she doesn't need to worry because as his apprentice, he won't let her starve. And fourth, he doesn't know what the fourth is yet, but does she have any questions? She says she doesn't have any. He throws 2 books and tells her to pay close attention. The first is a textbook on Ruinias and is quite difficult. The second is an exercise for her practice, but she should take it easy and not try to progress too quickly. She shouldn't be lazy because occasionally he will check her progress. She thanks him, saying she will remember all of this. He points to the side, saying she can choose any room she wants to stay in. Seeing the dilapidated house, she already wonders if she made the right choice. He goes to cook the snake while she thinks she has to resist to get stronger. The boy's hand is like a knife. He tears the snake in half and puts it on a skewer. He makes a fire with his finger and lights the barbecue. From inside one of the houses, she smells the delicious aroma. She opens the window and sees him frying the whole dragon, a type of meat that he usually have to give to the patriarchs. But there he is, the rascal, just fried and ate it. It's not even breaded. Are you already salivating? Even though she has lived for over 1,000 years, she has never eaten dragon meat. So she calls out to him and says she's getting a little hungry. Can she have a little meat? No. Obviously, he refuses. The poor girl is embarrassed. She never imagined she would suffer such humiliation for food. She makes a crying face but says it won't do any good. With that, she turns, saying the master is very stingy. But he tells her to wait. She turns around asking if she can eat a little bit now. He takes a small twig and pulls off a tiny piece for her. And it's not even to eat, just to lick. She approaches, a bit angry but curious to try it. He says he doesn't like being called stingy, and when she tastes it, she understands why. She makes a face, but then is shocked. The amount of energy in a piece of dragon meat is too much for her. She realizes instantly that she couldn't handle it. If she had actually eaten a bigger piece, she would have destroyed her own body. She then thanks the master for his generosity. He advises that a little lick a day is more than enough, and she says she will remember that. With that, night falls, and at the entrance of the mountain, several guys prepare to invade. The guys came to steal Master Bai's horse. They jump over a wall, and one of them asks if just the 2 of them are enough. The guy shows a vial, saying it's the poison that makes you drunk for 1,000 years. Then he tells them to be quiet. Bai is passing by with hay. He throws it for the horse to eat, thinking about how small it was when he found it. The horse comes all sweet and nuzzles him while he says goodnight. He then leaves and extinguishes the candle, but the guys are confident they will succeed. In front of the horse, they say that it should belong to the beast department. A few minutes earlier, Liu was studying the books he had given her. Suddenly, she closed them and wondered who was bold enough to come there in the middle of the night. She left her room saying she would teach them a lesson. The guy was pouring the poison into the horse's water, planning to make it drunk and easy to take. When Liu appeared, asking what they were doing there, the guys recognized her as the crazy girl who left the sword department to stay with Bai Lushan. They then say it has nothing to do with her and she should go back to sleep. However, she warns them to forget about stealing anything from the master while she is there. The guy decides he will have to handle it the hard way and moves towards her. The rascal comes with his tongue out, saying not to blame him for this, but she's just standing there observing. As soon as he tries to grab her, she dodges. She extends her leg and hits him right in the chin, with the strength that Yuna got knocked. The poor guy is thrown to the ground. His friend helps, asking if he's okay. The guy spits blood, saying the girl is stronger than he imagined. He summons a Dragon Ball's aura and tells his friend to help, as they will take care of her now. He moves towards her with his hand on fire, but now Liu also advances. The trash goes with fire technique. She comes with a kick, hitting him in the ribs. He rolls away like trash and ends up cursed. She continues, clearly very strong, posing a real danger. The guy starts to draw his blade, saying he will solve this. Meanwhile, Bai Lushan is sleeping peacefully. He wakes up and sees everything happening outside. Clearly exhausted, he decides to ignore it. A surge of energy covers the mountains. Liu defeats the guy with a simple blow. She realizes that the dome isolates sound in the area, then gets excited, saying that it seems the master doesn't want to let them escape either. Now the poor guys are scared to death. At the same night, the master of the beast department is furious. His 2 students came to tell him that Bai Lushan's new junior is very strong. The master gives them potions to recover. They thank him and he says he will take care of it for them. He then calls everyone from the beast department to King Moon Mountain. They are going to seek justice for this. However, on the way, a guy says they should wait. They have to remember that Bai Lushan is still an instructor and that they were the ones who started this problem. The master says he doesn't care because that horse belongs to them. The guy suggests seeing things differently, advising that the best thing to do is to say that Bai Lushan's disciples beat up his students. The master seems to agree, and they decide to speak with those responsible for enforcing the laws there. But another day dawned. The lazy bag woke up around 1 in the afternoon. Liu said good morning, but she clearly hadn't slept well. He asks if she woke up early and how the book reading went last night. She, all embarrassed, doesn't really know what to say. Almost half of her body's energy was used just to read half a page of that book. She tried to persist but couldn't manage anything more. Bai Lushan says that what she accomplished was sufficient and asks how much she read. She feels embarrassed, saying she understands. Then, as he swings his axe, she informs him that she read half a page. He turns around and asks what she means by that, questioning if she really read half a page in one night. She apologizes, saying she feels disappointed, but he says it was actually an incredible surprise. He thought she would only be able to read a few of the first words. Embarrassed, she asks if the master really thought she was that stupid. He says that's not the case and that he is genuinely happy with this news. The knowledge in that book is something he has accumulated over a long time, so for her to read half a page in one night was amazing. He gives her an item saying that knowledge is necessary, but she doesn't need to rush. With that token, she can go to the Academy's library. As her token improves, she will be able to access even better manuscripts. Sai Liu asks how to level up the token. He explains that there is a place where she can take on missions for apprentices or she can participate in the test. She thanks him, saying she understands it well. However, in her mind, that chief's book is much more important than this token. She has been an immortal for a long time, so to her, that token is trash and she kicks it away. All she wants for the rest of her life is just the master's manuscripts. She notices the master is thoughtful and asks what the problem is. Someone yells from below, calling for the disciple of Mount Kinmu named Sai Liu to come down and accept her punishment. She says it must be the people related to the guys she beat up last night, and apologizes, saying she couldn't hold back much. He tells her not to worry, to leave it to him, and to study hard. He will go check it out below, and she agrees. At the entrance of Mount Kinmu, there is an army, and the two went down to see what it was about. The guys in white robes were those who enforced the laws in this world and demanded that the professor hand over the disciple Sai Liu now. Bai Lushan was more impressed with the crowd of people and calmly walked through everyone. The guy who had used the trembolone said the evidence was clear and she should go with him soon. However, Bai put the axe on the ground and said he wanted to ask something. Did they know about the other two disciples who invaded their place last night? Looking at the master of the beast department, the master said they accidentally appeared in that place and were beaten up. Obviously, the word accidentally is not something Bai liked. So he turns, saying that accidentally Miss Sai Liu beat them up too. No need to worry. They start to retreat, but Xiang Sheng says if he persists, things won't go well for him. Bai Lushan just looks back and asks what he's going to do. Then the guy starts trembling, right? He starts shouting, asking the senior if they see how he's acting. And on top of that, the guy is covering up a crime, which is worse. They need to arrest Bai Lushan's disciple now. The two guys descend in front of Bai. Xiang Sheng warns that anyone who goes against the law will not fare well in this place. However, Bai Lushan says they are just a bunch of kids and do not represent the Hall of Law. The guy draws his blade, saying he and his disciple will be punished today. He moves forward and tells his friend to follow. Xiang Sheng is confident because for the last 10 years, all Bai Lushan has been doing is cutting wood. It's ridiculous that trash like him goes against the Hall of Law. Bai Lushan pushes Sai Liu and says this is a test for her, and she should not disappoint. Alone, she advances towards the two. She smiles, and will there be a strong kick? First, she crouches, dodging the first cut. The guy tries to hit her from the side, but she disappears in a blur. Now she says she understands that these two are too weak to fight against the master. Easily, she continues to dodge each of their attacks, while smiling, saying she is sure she will grow much stronger by his side. Suddenly, something blue appears in her hand, and the guy wonders what she is doing. He quickly realizes she was drawing runes. The guy is impressed. To use a rune in combat, you draw it before, not in the middle of the battle. Seeing this, the other guy gets angry, thinking she's underestimating them. He tells his friend that they should use their special move and sends a green slash in her direction. She takes a step back and dodges it. Meanwhile, the other guy is above, saying they will interrupt her process. He delivers a slash that summons a green dragon and tells her to go to hell. She activates a power in her fingers and says they are nothing special. The dragon collides with her energy. She blocks the attack, which causes an explosion on the mountain. The explosion is so intense that no one can see anything, and they wonder if it worked. However, she is there calmly with energy spheres, saying it's time to get serious. She sends two electric birds in their direction. Seeing the birds, the guys are in disbelief. Bai Lushan is thinking that he has the power of the wooden snake, but cannot give it to her yet. She finishes everything while he thinks he needs to find something related to thunder to give to her. The guy on the ground calls out to Xiang Sheng. He says they came here because of him and orders him to do something. Sweet and cold, Xiang Sheng gets angry for being called out right when they were defeated. If the two cannot defeat the girl, he has no chance at all. However, she has no patience and sends an attack in his direction that hits him right in the chest. He falls to his knees, wondering how she threw him back like that. Bai just tells her to step back. One of them gets up, saying that going against those who enforce the law is a grave crime. He will surely regret this. However, our lazy protagonist says that the ones who will regret it are the three of them. The guy asks what he's going to do. He orders everyone to kneel. The guys feel some kind of energy in their chests, and instantly everyone kneels. The energy covers the entire mountain. Lying on the ground, the guy wonders how someone who seems to have no power can do something like this. Bai tells them not to come back, and one of them says he has regained the energy he had 10 years ago. Another hits the ground saying it's impossible. He must be using someone else's energy. Suddenly, he receives a spiritual connection from someone called Elder 2. The guy spits blood instantly and flies away. He tells Shang to stay there kneeling until Master Yu comes personally to speak with him. The guy then announces to the leader that Shang is still kneeling at Mount King Moon. The old man named Shang Kung tells the guys to rest, saying he will handle it. The guys leave smiling, confident that Bai will lose. Shang Kung calls one of his disciples to go to Mount King Moon. Bai Lushan is already tired, it's already noon, and no one has shown up. He leaves the food and goes to see Sai Liu practicing runes. She senses something approaching, breaks one in her hand, breaks one in her leg, and as always practices with great dense force. Our boy praises her, saying she's very quiet when attacking. He tells her he is going out, and that if someone from the beast department arrives, she should use this seal. And with that, he leaves, saying he will be back in the morning. Our protagonist knows the geography of this place very well. He knows that in all the important points you can find powerful demons. He lands thinking he will need some ancestral material for her. Seeing that the region is constantly struck by lightning, he knows there is a thunder demon around. From the top of the mountain, he notices a very dense, healthy girl running from something. He imagines she is one of the Academy's disciples and is strangely being attacked by energy spheres. An explosion goes off in the forest and he thinks there is always trouble. He prepares a patrol and says he will take a look. Down below, the girl drenched in oil is exhausted and someone says her energy is depleted. The guy in front tells her to stop running because the fun they have planned for her won't be that bad. Angry, she tells him to keep dreaming. However, he says that because she is from the arts department, she is just a pet of the academy. She touches her own forehead, saying she would rather die than let this happen. Suddenly, he grabs her head. On the ground, she realizes her powers are sealed. The guy says her facial skin is very soft. He is sure it will be worth it. The poor girl is in disbelief that her fate will end like this. Suddenly, she hears someone telling her to hit a certain point on him. At that moment, she felt she could move. The guy realized he couldn't move and got hit right in the chest. A lightning bolt cut through his belly, and he was thrown to the other side. It created a crater in the poor guy. Even she was in disbelief at this power. The guy's friend ran over to see what had happened. Meanwhile, she was thanking the air as he was invisible, wondering why she was so foolish. The servant got angry, saying he would make her pay for that. She didn't retreat and told him to come, but she was insecure since she had no energy. The guy ran toward her, saying he knew she couldn't defend herself. But the lazy guy told her to take a step back and hit him right in the kidney. She got confused and did it all wrong. The guy went to finish her off, and just as he was about to strike her neck, Bai snapped his fingers and trapped him in a formation. He told her to kill him quickly. She didn't know where Bai was but asked if she could ask a few questions before finishing him off. The guy trapped said there was no need to ask. The person she was looking for had exploded their own spiritual energy and fled. She was in disbelief, but the guy said she was probably being eaten by insects in the Kangal Abyss. He warned that if he died, the formless border sect would hunt her down. Suddenly, the two of them were startled. Bai Lushan appeared, asking about this sect and why he had been sent. The guy recognized him and Bai asked if he was that famous. The girl knew that he was the useless Bai Lushan from the academy. Our protagonist said he didn't have time and told the guy to speak, but he refused. So he just told the guy to die, and in disbelief, he exploded. The girl angrily asked how they would find her older sister now that he had killed him. However, he told her to calm down, saying there was a way to resolve it. He asked if she had anything that belonged to her master, and she handed over a handkerchief. With that, he gave it to the bird and told it to find her. The bird entered a cave and found the master of the oiled-up body sect in a weakened state. She knew that by destroying her own energy, that place would be her tomb. Reaching out to the sky, she just wanted to know if Yunru was safe. At that moment, someone called out to her. She was startled and asked if it was Yunru. Up above was the protagonist, saying she was very injured. Yunru wanted to jump down, but he told her not to rush, that he would handle it. He invoked a talisman, and she appeared impressed. A blue energy descended into the cave and moved towards the girl. Bubbles formed, lifting her out of the cave. Up above, they hugged each other, happy to be reunited. Both thanked Bai Lushan. He took a pearl from his necklace and told her to heal with it. It had been the reward he got from the idiot in the sword department. She tried to refuse, saying it was too much, but he said her recovery was more important. The master was hesitant, but the disciple accepted on her behalf. With great force and squishy persistence, she helped her eat it. As soon as she ate it, a green energy surrounded her, and she realized all her wounds were healing. She thanked him, saying she owed him, but Bai just said she shouldn't be there with the strength she had. Why were both of them in the Kangal Abyss? They stared at each other, not knowing what to say. Meanwhile, Sai Liu had just finished reading the first page and was exhausted. She thought about going to sleep when she realized someone was coming to cause trouble again. A formation passed over the place. In the sky, Shen Kang appeared, saying he came to deliver the punishment they deserved. While Bai was lecturing the two about going to such a dangerous place, the master explained that she was hunting for materials and ended up lost there. However, Bai Lushan didn't believe this story of being lost. She explained she was hunting a snow cicada, but the people from the Void sect were also hunting it. Bai thought it didn't make sense for them to be hunting something like that. but he imagined it must be a very strong, dense, circular, perky cicada in every sense, which is why they were after it. Hugh asked what he was going to do, and he replied he would hunt the cicada since it also had some electrical attribute status. He left, telling them to practice while they were envious, saying his apprentice was very lucky. Meanwhile, on the mountain, Shen Kang was shouting for Bai Lushan to come out. Wide-hipped babes stepped out and greeted him, but informed him that Bai Lushan was not present. Kong ordered her to kneel, but she simply said that he was neither a relative nor a master, so why should she do that? Shen Kong said that as an elder, she should kneel, or perhaps that crippled master of hers didn't teach her. Already getting annoyed, she retorted that there were no such rules here and her master wasn't crippled. He should watch what he says. The vice president got angry and asked how she dared to lecture him. He extended his hand and told her to kneel. A palm of energy surged towards her, crushing the ground, but she seemed to be resisting with her aura. Bleeding from her eyes and mouth, she declared that the disciple hadn't done anything wrong, so she wouldn't kneel. The old man, impressed by her courage, said they would see how much she could endure and sent a barrage of energy palms. But he was confused. Down below, amidst the barrage, she was radiating a Dragon Ball Z-like aura. She was suffering, yet strong and beautiful. What a combination! The old man realized she was burning her own energy just to avoid kneeling. Truly insane, just like that Bai Lushan. And because of this, they needed to get rid of her. He then pointed to Wenhai next to him and told him to kill her, but the guy hesitated. The old man asked why he was refusing a direct order, but the boy said her crime didn't warrant death. Stai Liu smiled, saying that the old man at least had a reasonable disciple. The guy then approached her and said his master valued reputation. If she could kneel, it would all be resolved, and it wasn't worth losing her life just to avoid kneeling to an elder. Stai Liu said she never imagined one of the most powerful sects would have such a worthless master. The guy drew a blade and asked why she was making things difficult, but she smiled, saying she wasn't in the mood for this stupid talk, and if he wanted her dead, he should come at her. The guy raised his hands to the sky and apologized, while she was preparing something behind her, thinking that he would be the one needing to apologize. Suddenly, the horse appeared next to the guy and headbutted him. Boy, he was blasted into the wall. The poor guy was shattered. This wasn't part of her plan, even she was surprised. Shen Kong said now it was clear why everyone wanted that horse. The beast had a purple aura stronger than the guy's. They even stood in front of Stai Liu to protect her. The old man conjured a rope made of aura and told the horse to stay quiet in the corner. He whipped it, saying it was best to be prepared because now it was his too. With that, he began to pull Blackie while Stai Liu called out to him. The horse stomped the ground and stood face to face with the elder. He said it was a stupid animal and told it to die. And indeed, he punched it so hard the horse coughed and its core shattered. Stai Liu, with tears in her eyes, watched everything. Poor Blackie was shattered on the ground. The poor thing had a hole in its belly. Stai Liu, in disbelief, told the old man he was a piece of human trash, who would pay 100 times for this. The old man descended from the skies and approached her, saying today was her last day on Earth. Stai Liu took the chance and approached, activating her fairy wheel specialty. Face to face, she knew she had to finish it with this attack and delivered a stellar slash. The attack hit the master directly. Even though it was on the neck he had prepared. With his protective treasure, he wouldn't die, but it made him realize how dangerous she was. Exhausted, Stai Liu realized her power was gone. The old man whipped her again and captured her. He pulled her by the neck. Choking, she warned that her master wouldn't let him leave alive. But the old man smiled, saying he was here to kill Bai Lushan, so it was better if he appeared. Suddenly, Blackie rose but fell again, and Stai Liu told him not to try anything, while Stai Liu could only call out for her master. Then she remembered the talisman he gave her, and now she had just stuck it on the old man's arm. The guy laughed, asking what that piece of paper would do. The unique seal activated and created a whirlwind on his arm. As soon as the talisman exploded, it threw him backward, causing him to release Stai Liu. In front of her, a spiritual bird emerged. Shen Kong was about to ask what the hell that was when the bird was already at his back. He couldn't react and got hit hard. The creature raised its arms and exploded the entire field. At the center of the explosion was his hand with the broken talisman. His disciple approached, asking if he was okay, but the man was battered. The disciple quickly lifted the master, saying they needed to treat him immediately. However, the master consumed recovery pills and declared he would finish off that girl. His aura increased and he vowed he would not lose to a little girl. He jumped towards Stai Liu, declaring that she would die now. Facing him, she realized this might be the end of her second life. However, she wondered why her master was taking so long. Suddenly, Shen Kong was frozen in place with a fiery aura in front of him. His hand was being held by something. The old man couldn't break free. It was an illusion created by Bai Lushan while he was treating Stai Liu. Raising his arms, he said that the old man was used to attacking a disciple while he wasn't around. The clone crushed the guy's head, and Bai called him despicable. With that, the guy was crushed, turning into a pool of blood. Disfigured on the ground, he wondered how, being one of the 5 strongest in the academy, he was being destroyed by this crippled guy. The boy beside him watched the destruction and ran towards Bai, asking him to stop. However, Bai summoned a golden bell that appeared around the boy and trapped him. Inside the bell, he could only watch his master being pulverized. Shen Kong was being healed and then immediately beaten. Clearly, this was just an attempt to humiliate him. The blows continued to explode on the surrounding mountains. After a while, the boy fell out of the bell. The clone came and announced that to avoid causing the end of the academy today, he would spare the old man's life. He tossed him a pill and told them to leave the mountain now. The defeated old man asked for a regeneration pill. The boy took one out of his pocket and handed it to him. As soon as he consumed it, he was healed. He claimed he only lost to the cripple because he was caught off guard and asked the boy for another item. Meanwhile, Sai Liu was apologizing for not being able to protect the sect. Even the horse was hurt because of her. Bai said it was okay and wanted to repair her body. Suddenly, from his spatial ring, the man pulled out a giant griffin. He threw it towards Bai Lushan, telling him to die with that. From the pouch at Bai Lushan's waist, something shone. With electric eyes, it stared at the griffin, which instantly got scared and flew away. The old man ordered it to come back. Suddenly, the girls from the Oil of Body sect arrived at the scene. Bai asked them to take care of his disciple. He said that for many years he had been living on this peak without bothering anyone. However, they had the audacity to harm one of his disciples. The old man saw that Bai had activated the blood-melting curse and asked if he was crazy. He tried to flee, knowing that if that curse touched him, he would turn into a pool of blood. But at that moment, Bai's clone was beside him, while the old man thought he didn't want to die there. With a massive punch to the face, he was sent back to the sect. He lay disfigured on the ground, begging not to be killed and saying that Bai Lushan would be judged if he did that. However, Bai said that here he was the judgment and threw the blood curse seal at him. From the black energy, various souls emerged, driving the old man towards them. The lazy rascal had taken so long to arrive because he was waiting for her to activate the seal that served as his signal. The boy was speechless. His master had turned into a jelly of blood. Bai snapped his fingers, and all that was left of the man was a condensed residue. The girls felt disgusted, saying the master was vicious. The boy knelt and Bai said he didn't want to do it. The guy forced his hand. He asked him to wait, but Bai just crossed his fingers, and with that, something was ripped from the boy. He lost about 7 years worth of hair that he had grown. Bai walked away saying that this would be his lesson, and that it would be good to remove that guy who has been kneeling at the gate all this time. With that, Bai went to talk to his disciple while being watched. Shul mentioned it was better for them to leave and not get too involved in this matter. They thanked him for his help, and he told them to come by whenever they wanted. However, Sai Liu thought they would probably come by all the time. Once again, Bai snapped his fingers, and a sort of bloody bird was watching them. Bai Lushan just stared at it and destroyed the bird in the sky. She asked what it was, and he warned her that someone was observing. In a cave, an old man was crying, saying that Bai Lushan didn't leave even a single hair intact on his nephew. He told the boy behind him that he knew very well what to do in the next test. The boy said he understood perfectly. That was the head of the department that enforced the laws. Meanwhile, Bai Lushan told Sai Liu that he had brought something for her. A giant white creature appeared, and he said it was a snow cicada still in its larval form. He mentioned that he went out to hunt for a catalyst but got lucky and found this instead. She was impressed that the creature, which was extremely powerful, was so docile in front of him. Bai was petting it, saying it also had an electric power and would help when they formed a contract. Sai Liu was emotional because in her entire past life, she never had something like this. She thanked her master eagerly. He said he hoped she would do very well in the academy test, and she assured him he didn't need to worry. Looking at the cicada, he said it would be very easy for her, especially if she took this little creature. Sai Liu asked if she could take something like this to the test. Bai said yes, he could reduce its power to within acceptable limits. She was afraid the cicada would refuse to have its power reduced, but Bai activated his powers and said it might hurt a bit. The cicada formed a cocoon around itself. At that moment, Sai Liu realized the creature's power was increasing. The cocoon formed completely and he said it was done. It slowly opened and something emerged. You know what's coming. She was emotional and what came out was a cicada. Guys, it was brimming with combat power and an incredible dense strength. The cicada introduced itself as Iceland and said she hoped to get along well with Sai Liu. Sai Liu was gushing over how cute Iceland was, saying she never imagined a demon could be so adorable. Iceland then asked if she had ever met other powerful demons. That's when Sai Liu realized she had said too much and revealed secrets. So she made up a story about some random creatures. She looked at Bai to see if he was paying attention, but he was more interested in the system. However, something wasn't working. He told Iceland to help the girl, who said he could count on her. He said it was late, and he was going to sleep, and the loving cicada smiled, wishing him good night. He was thinking about the fact that people from the sects were looking for a jade that the cicada was guarding, but not even the system could assist her. Suddenly, the system appeared and gave him a mission for his apprentice to take first place in the competition. Bai was impressed and said he thought the system was just a wooden computer. The system got in his face angrily and asked if he was going to accept the mission or not. He said he would accept that damn mission. It was a pity that the rewards would only be useful for Sai Liu. In the middle of the night, when Bai was sleeping, a girl trapped inside a jade appeared. She said that unfortunately it wasn't enough, but she really wanted to see him again. 5 days later, someone was having a barbecue. The guys passing by were impressed by the smell. Of course, it was Bai. What cheeky reference. Hime asked what he was doing, and he said he was cooking a wild bird. He didn't remember clearly, but a bird appeared, and he killed it. However, Hime was angry because that was the entrance to the test area. Everyone was saying how good it smelled. Bai continued barbecuing, and the guy told everyone to hurry up and take the test. He walked past Bai and said he was not fit for the title of instructor. The instructors of the Beast Department thought their leaders weren't there because they had gone to train. A short-haired guy was watching Sai Liu with the cicada on her head. He commented that her talent wasn't bad. It was a pity she had affiliated herself with a cripple. He tried to seduce her, but she completely ignored him. She ran over to Bai Lushan, drooling and begging for a piece of the food as always. She kept pleading, but he kept saying no because it had too much spiritual power. Meanwhile, the other guy was seething with anger from being rejected. A man placed his hand on his shoulder. It was the head of the destruction department who told him not to lose his way because of a woman. Then someone called out for everyone to look because the art department had arrived. Wow, the two girls were already dense strong, but the instructor really is a heavyweight when it comes to density. Now the buff guy changed his mind and said it was a coincidence meeting her there. However, she also ignored him and went to talk to Bai, thanking him for saving her disciples. Bai pretended to be clueless, saying he didn't know anything about that. He introduced Sai Liu to her, who was a bit envious of the girl's potential. But now the rejected boys were even angrier. Then someone shouted for everyone to be quiet. It was the old man who was about to announce the missions, saying everything would take place in a secret realm. The time limit was 2 days, and the ranking would be decided by the number of points each person accumulated. Besides hunting treasures and killing creatures, they could also steal points from each other. However, it was forbidden to put any other competitor's life at risk. And that was all. He announced they could start now. People started sending their disciples. Sai Liu said she was going too, but seeing Moon Xuanqiu clinging to Bai, she didn't really want to go. Moon whispered in his ear, asking if he wasn't worried about his disciple. With his dark gaze, he said he was confident she had enormous potential. She left with great determination. Inside the realm, a guy was running scared. He was saying that everyone said the talisman department was trash, so why was she so strong? Another one was defeated. Another person on the ground was asking for help. But once again, Sai Liu was stealing everyone's talismans. The problem was she was still ranked 47th, even though she had eliminated 6 people. She was angry and squeezed Iceland, asking her to say something. Iceland appeared, begging not to be crushed, and said that Bai had asked her to pretend to be a normal spirit. Sai Liu said she understood, but there was a talisman on her back. Someone was holding a frog, and 2 hooded guys said they had found her. Meanwhile, at the academy, everyone was watching the fights. Many people were watching Sai Liu destroying everyone and wondered how she was so strong. Moon asked Bai if he wasn't afraid of her acting with such arrogance, and he said only the weak are afraid of that. Those who truly have power find strength in their own confidence. Moon said he hadn't changed at all. He was still the same Bai Lushan who saved the world 10 years ago. He said she must be imagining things. Suddenly, someone rang a bell, and the screen showing the images stopped working. The elders said they would try to figure out what was happening, but one of the boys warned that there was a problem with spiritual powers. Others were entering to help and see what was going on, and something entered there. It was Bai's spirit saying that apparently some people still hadn't given up. Inside, Sai Liu was fighting. A highly dangerous, dense enemy said she was a very talented girl. 2 people from the reinforcement hall said she had offended someone she shouldn't have. But Sai Liu didn't back down and said they shouldn't think they could do whatever they wanted at the academy. A guy named Lucio sent a slash with a purple blade. She realized her light was being easily split. Both of them advanced towards her. Seeing herself surrounded, she knew she didn't have the strength to defeat them, but she also couldn't escape. She then asked the cicada for help, saying she couldn't lose her power again. At that moment, the girl from the reinforcement hall received a blast of energy. Lucio tried to protect himself, but the power consumed his sword. All of this was from a breath of the cicada, who appeared with a forbidden, dense strength on all platforms. The guys realized her power and were warned to leave or they would die. With that, everyone retreated. Thank God she transformed back. Otherwise, I'd have to eat sand with water this month. She pointed in a direction, telling them to go get the treasure. The girl from the reinforcement hall was frozen in place. Apparently, he was trying to free her, knowing he would need her help. But then he felt something. Someone said that the people from the reinforcement hall had tried to assassinate another competitor. It was Bai's clone, saying they'd better be ready to go to the next life. In the sky, a giant deformed eye was watching everything. Bai said it was because of them that he had to be so ruthless. He used a type of talisman that attacked whoever was controlling it. The guy in the cave spat blood immediately. His followers tried to help, asking what was happening. The fool who dunked his head in the red ink bucket wondered how much of his strength Bai Lushan had recovered. Inside the treasure cave, Sai Liu and the cicada were lost, unable to find the way. Sai Liu was being scolded for having no sense of direction. She turned to complain to the cicada, but the cicada had to use a power to freeze some creatures behind them, warning her to be more careful. Even though those creatures seemed weak, they would drain all her energy. That's when Sai Liu realized that if there were creatures with high energy, there was a treasure nearby. She destroyed the barrier, and they found the gate leading to the treasures. Sai Liu said she was hesitant and thought it was better to go back. But the cicada said with her there was nothing to worry about and sent 2 attacks towards the door, causing an explosion. Now all they have to do is go in and get the treasure. But actually, it did nothing to the door. She got angry and said she would now show her true power, unleashing a barrage of attacks but got exhausted and the thing was still intact. She kept hitting everything until Sai Liu saw a spot to place her hand. As soon as she touched it, the door opened. The cicada was a bit confused but entered, excited, saying they would now find a perfect treasure for her. Sai Liu, on the other hand, thought the place felt a bit familiar. The cicada approached a creature with a purple aura and said it was probably a mechanism to start the inheritance. That's when Sai Liu understood what it was. She remembered a demonic energy from a creature in her past life. It was a seal she had created. She told the cicada not to do it, but she had already struck it with a sword. The purple statue cracked and the tombstone exploded. The entire secret realm started to be consumed by a purple energy. In the forest, strange vines grew, and the observers mentioned that something unusual was happening, saying that from the energy, a demon emperor was emerging in that place. Everyone started running, wondering why there was someone so powerful in a training area. The chief told everyone to stay calm. Then an elder appeared on the screen asking for an explanation of the situation. As soon as he got the information, he sent an army to attack and resolve the issue. Everyone invaded the island. Inside, the students from the oil department were trying to resist the vines. Even Master Moon entered to help. Bai appeared, asking if they had seen his disciple. Chu apologized and said they hadn't seen her. People realized most disciples had been teleported to the entrance. That meant Sai Liu was still trapped inside. The 2 were scared. In front of them, the demon Emperor Thrush said he had returned. He expanded his aura, saying that now the world belonged to him. The cicada defended herself, knowing she could only escape if she abandoned Sai Liu. But how could she tell that to her master? When Thrush saw Sai Liu, he said she was an ant from the human realm. He called her disgusting and attacked again. The cicada protected them and told Sai Liu to hide as she was only getting in the way. Thrush kept attacking and asked why she would protect that human. Iceland smiled and said the human girl was a pet she was raising, so she wanted her to be spared. Sai Liu asked what they were going to do, and Iceland said they were going to flee. Suddenly, she hit her and told her she was interrupting their conversation. At the same time, she placed a clone behind her to pull her as far away as possible. However, Thrush observed the situation. He said it was ridiculous, since none of them would escape. Iceland said it was impolite to listen in on a conversation between 2 girls, but Thrush attacked, saying he would take their lives now. She remembered that Bai had given her a talisman, but warned her that using it could be dangerous. She activated it, saying her life was already in the hands of another demon. 3 energy circles emerged from her back and her energy began to increase. Meanwhile, in other parts of the forest, the wooden creatures were killing everyone. As they were attacked on the ground, energy flowed out of them, transforming them into demons. People from the sect started arriving and the transformed attacked immediately. However, the old man killed them with a sword attack. But many other disciples had already been transformed. The old man activated a sword formation and crushed the entire field. He told the sword guy to go save the disciples and flee if he encountered the emperor. The sword guy said he understood but suggested sending Bai back. Bai appeared at that moment and asked what this talk of sending him back was. The guy angrily said that if Bai stayed, he would die like an idiot. But Bai said he was there to save his disciple. The old man said Bai was fragile and it was better not to get involved. However, the head of arts said he had disciples there and would never abandon them. The chief understood and handed him a bird, telling him to flee if he encountered any danger, and Bai thanked him. Himin continued cursing him, but Bai didn't care much and said if anything went wrong, he would collect the bodies. At that moment, an explosion swept through the mountains. A golden energy came from the demon who asked Trigger to attack him. Bai's clone in the sky said the talisman was activated and now the attack would begin. He created a black hole in front of him, saying he would kill all living beings. The demon's entire energy started to be absorbed and the sphere grew. From afar, one could see an explosion in the forest. Meanwhile, Iceland's body was frozen. From her mouth, only a small cocoon fell to the ground. She appeared, crying, saying that Bastard wasn't kidding, but luckily she had a way to preserve her life. A clone called her and they ran to find Sai Liu lying on the ground, with plants growing out of her body. Iceland knew that if she brought Sai Liu with her, she would die because of the curse. But if she fled without her, she would be hunted by Bai. She started remembering everything they went through together and angrily took her, saying that the master better have a solution. The demon emperor was fleeing in the sky. However, a lightning bolt struck him, knocking him to the ground. From the giant carcass, he emerged smaller. Looking at the clone, he said he wanted to know the name because such power shouldn't exist in this world. He saw the clone didn't respond and realized he didn't even deserve to know the creature's name. From afar, someone was watching the fight. It was Himing, scared, and Bai, saying he should join in. He would surely make a big difference. The guy was about to say something about it being impossible when Bai placed a talisman on his forehead, putting him to sleep tied up. The demon realized his energy was depleting and wondered if he would die there again. Suddenly, he was blessed with the energy of the Demon King and felt confident he would end the clone now. At that moment, the clone said his time limit was up and would return to the main body. Thrush thought he was trying to escape and attacked, sending him to hell. Bai activated a mandate and a gigantic green sword appeared in the sky. Iceland immediately recognized it as his power. The attack headed toward the demon, consuming all of his energy. Suddenly, he disintegrated, becoming small, demanding Bai reveal himself. Bai laughed, saying if he hadn't realized it was a clone by now, he was a fool. He used a talisman, and the demon said it was impossible for someone without power to use that. Bai said just because no one does it doesn't mean it's impossible. The demon's soul continued to be imprisoned and burned. Bai wanted to know why the demon was there and said he would continue until he got the answers. At that moment, Iceland appeared carrying Sai Liu. She threw Sai Liu into Bai's arms and asked him to help her, wanting to know what had happened. Crying, she said it was her fault for not being able to protect Sai Liu from that demon. Bai was furious and said he no longer wanted any answers. He accelerated the burning of the demon's soul, who declared that Bai would not be forgiven. At that moment, Thrush was terrified. Bai had opened the gate to the underworld and warned that not even his boss would save him. The demon agonized, saying he wouldn't accept this, but he was already being thrown into the gate, and with that, he was sealed for eternity. Iceland was shocked that not even the demon emperor stood a chance against Bai. Meanwhile, Sai Liu was agonizing due to the miasma. She lunged at Bai to attack, and Iceland warned him to be careful. But Sai Liu went to bite him. He let her bite and told her to drink as much as she needed. After a lot of blood was drawn, the curse was consumed. She woke up, and he asked her if she had slept well. Embarrassed, she apologized for the attack, but he said it wasn't her fault. The curse had remained on Bai, but he knew it was just residual power from that guy. He activated his healing powers and easily removed it. The system said that evil power had been detected and he would undergo a cleansing. Inside the void of consciousness, the demon thought he could kill Bai because he had sacrificed himself for his apprentice. However, since he was inside Bai's body, he was attacked by the system and ceased to exist. Sometime later, on Mount King Moon, Sai Liu woke up and realized she had to become stronger so she wouldn't depend so much on others. Iceland came out of the bath and asked if her eye was okay. She had gone blind in one eye and joked that now she was a cyclops. She got a slap on the head to stop making jokes. Angrily, she lay down, saying it was her fault that she ended up like that and apologized, promising it wouldn't happen again. The next day, everything was back to normal on the mountain. The only thing that happened was that Sai Liu caught a cold. She said she was fine, but the cicada explained it was because she used ice power. Bai said it was okay, and that he would take her to the art department tomorrow. They had hot springs that helped with recovery. A day later, they arrived there. Sai Liu took a bath to recover her energy while Bai talked with Master Moon. She wanted to tease him, but he was more concerned about why she had called him there. She said he had been boring lately, and asked him to take the girls to a secret realm for training. Bai said he wasn't fit because he was a cripple who couldn't do anything. However, Moon knew very well how strong he was. She said he could even take Sai Liu as she would receive many resources. Just then, someone opened the door while the chief whispered in his ear that he was sweet. Sai Liu grabbed the chief and ran away while the girls from the art department congratulated the master. At the peak, Sai Liu had learned a new technique that Bai taught her. She was excited, but he told her to be careful because it required a lot of practice. Otherwise, she could be consumed by the spirit of the flame. But the dense junior had already been consumed and clung to him, asking if he didn't like his disciple. Bai said she was affected by the spirit of fire and needed to relax, but she only wanted to know if she was beautiful. The master said she was but activated a talisman and cleared her mind. With that, she went to sleep and the poor guy relaxed. Truly, he had a lot of sympathy for this babe. The next day, in the secret realm that the Master of Arts had asked him to go to, he informed all the girls that they would carry location and protection talismans. He advised Sai Liu to be careful and not hunt dangerous treasures like last time. But she was embarrassed, remembering when she had been dominated by the fire cultivation. She left, murmuring, and Bai thought she seemed a bit unfocused. Just then, a girl entered, saying there was a problem outside. They went to see and some people were arriving. It was Kang Mingxiu, and well, you know how she is, right? All of them were hourglass shaped, so there's no need to say more. The girls belonged to the Palace of Ecstasy. In common language, that means a brothel. The master of the department told her to leave, but she said she was being disrespectful to her former aunt and pulled out a flute from the mountains. She sent the flute towards the girl who tried to protect herself, but her shield was shattered. At that moment, a green aura absorbed the flute and pulled it away. Kang Mingxiu was confused about how she lost control of her artifact. It flew to the hands of someone who said she was being very disobedient and that it belonged to him. Both of them were shocked as Bai began playing the flute. Everyone noticed he had already mastered the artifact. Angry, Kang Mingxiu attacked him. However, the flute's aura easily repelled the attack, throwing her back. Bai warned that this was her only warning, and everyone ran away. He handed the flute to one of the girls, and the others clamored for gifts too. Sai Liu returned to the room to prepare, jealous of the attention. With the entrance open, people began entering the secret realm. He told Sai Liu not to feel insecure because he would go with her this time to ensure nothing went wrong. She was unusually shy, perhaps recalling what had happened the previous day, though he had used a talisman to make her forget. From the top of the mountain, a snake was watching. It was one of the girls from the Palace of Ecstasy keeping an eye on things. She said they would enter too and take the treasures. As Bai crossed the portal, he received a mission to seal an ancestral ghost. Inside the realm, an explosion occurred. Tua was fighting one of the girls from Ecstasy. She was attacked and tried to defend herself with the flute. However, she was powerless against the density of the enemy. But suddenly, a golden fish pierced her chest and she fell dead. Bai had saved her and told her to be careful. There were many dangerous things around. He asked where the others were and she said many had died in the explosion. As they were leaving, Hu asked what that flying creature was. He activated his aura and caught it. He explained that it was a soul-sucking bee and probably someone in this place was collecting the souls of the dead. In another part of the realm, Sai Liu was absorbing lightning energy from the sky. Aislinn told her to be more careful, asking why she was trying to evolve by absorbing heavenly punishment. Sai Liu wanted to say it was because of her master, but felt embarrassed. Suddenly, someone appeared, saying they didn't expect to find them there. It was the people from the Palace of Ecstasy, thankfully covered up. Sai Liu Lin laughed and asked if they really wanted to die like that. However, Kang Mingxiu warned that she was only hiding her power to follow the plan. Something descended from the sky and a pillar hit the ground. Sai Liu Lin realized it contained demonic power. She tried to say something to Sai Liu Wei, but was hit in the face, causing an explosion. She was thrown to the other side of a shattered mountain. Almost losing consciousness, she said they needed to call Bai to deal with this. In the next scene, Sai Liu Wei was waking up tied to the ceiling. She asked what they were doing, and Kang Shu was attaching a bunch of seals to the ceiling. The other girls from the art department were also tied up. Aislinn was laughing maniacally. Sai Liu asked if she was betraying the master. She smiled, saying she was adapting to the situation. Sai Liu asked why she was tied up like an idiot if that was the case. Meanwhile, Kang Shuwei asked if that number of souls wasn't enough. The soul refining master was there, looking more like the bomb refining master with 15 kilos of abs. She asked why the refining was taking so long. Kang Shuwei said she didn't need to worry, there were plenty of souls. She told the guys nearby to bring more disciples. Sai Liu Wei asked the cicada to do something and it said it was only observing for now. As the guys went to touch the girls, a lightning bolt pushed everyone back, knocking them out. Kang Shu asked a rabbit girl beside her for help, but she refused, saying she wasn't in the mood. She said she had already helped defeat the cicada and didn't want to do anything else. The scared guy from the Soul Palace asked what the problem was. He raised his arm and began pulling the souls out of everyone from the Palace of Ecstasy. Kang Mingxiu tried to activate a power, but the muscle girl told her to stay still or she would receive punishments. At that moment, the scared guy said the ancestor was arriving. The chain broke and a bunch of skeletons fell to the ground. A hand emerged, saying it had been 1,000 years since this person last appeared in this place. Seeing the green energy, Sai Liu recognized it as the entity from 1,000 years ago. And what rose was the demon of the immortal land. The soul-refining people paid their respects while Kang Shu didn't understand what was happening. The demon looked to the side and said there was another high-quality soul beginning to absorb Kang Shu's soul. However, the rabbit girl cut off the absorption and Kang Shu took the opportunity to activate a portal and escape. The cicada was going to save Sai Liu and the rabbit girl took advantage to absorb her as well. With that, the three escaped through the portal, leaving the poor girl behind. The Earth Demon commented that times had changed if someone so weak dared to flee from him. Tremble Luna explained that the soul refining had been suffering in recent years and begged for mercy. The demon angrily tried to absorb the energy of all the girls. However, the cicada was protecting them with all she had, wondering where the Dan Bai was as she couldn't hold on much longer. Suddenly, an explosion occurred and an axe fell to the ground. Obviously, the rascal had arrived. Just seeing him made the demon sweat. Bai asked if he had never seen a protagonist before. Violet wanted to know who that guy was. The demon was confused, not able to calculate the protagonist's power. Bai descended and for the first time picked up the axe, warning them to prepare to be chopped. The demon activated the soul call banner and said Bai would beg for his life. A lot of vines attacked Bai, who was a professional at dealing with that. He just activated a talisman that created a dragon, consuming everything. The old man asked who was to use such a powerful talisman without having any power. Bai said he was his father, here to teach a lesson. The demon angrily sent another attack formation. He got trapped and the old man said he would die now. However, Bai just activated a shield and noticed that the water was suppressing some of his powers. The black energy went to attack him and he activated a talisman to defend himself. But the attack wasn't stopped and he was hit in multiple points. The demon said that inside there, his talismans were useless. He wanted to see how long his golden body would last. Bai asked the system what that was. The system told him to be careful as he was inside the old man's realm where the guy was strengthened. The old man's soul said Bai must be going insane and that death awaited him. However, Bai freed himself and struck the old man with his axe. The old man fell to the corner, wondering how he was hurt. His power began to dissipate as he asked what kind of axe that was. The lazy Bai said it was just the little axe he used to chop wood. The old man was confused, but it was too late. Bai had cut him in half, saying the old man was no different from wood. Outside, the core was disintegrating. Iceland was immobilizing Violet, who said she would kill her as soon as the ancestor emerged. Then a flash of light filled the room. Bai walked out calmly, holding the old man's head. Everyone was shocked, saying it was impossible. But Bai just threw the head into the lap of the fool, who then exploded and turned into a puddle. Seeing this, Violet clung to Bai, saying she would do anything for him. But he just pushed her away and told them to send her to the academy for interrogation. He then saw Iceland fleeing and asked where Liu was. She tried to explain that Liu had been taken by an elder and that she couldn't block the portal. One of the girls from the art department mentioned she was likely taken to the Palace of Ecstasy. Bai seemed to know the place. Elsewhere, Liu was waking up. She was surrounded by chains with talismans and recognized the person in front of her. With a green face, the creature said it had been a long time and called Liu by her past life's name, Radiant Fairy Immortal. In a flashback, Liu was talking to a friend about how they would strengthen themselves. Liu said she had an epiphany and received a fortune from the heavens. Her friend asked what she was talking about, and Liu turned, saying they were doing everything wrong. She pulled something out from within herself and said those were the 3 bodies, a Taoist belief that says these 3 bodies lead humans to death. Her friend said she was going crazy, as those were her origin spirits. However, Liu was already being consumed by the power and asked what she knew. She threw a blade that pierced her poor friend. She was going mad, claiming she would finally ascend to immortality. Her friend tried to explain that she was actually being dominated by a demon. At that moment, Liu started to lose her sanity, questioning why she was still human. She remembered the pearls she had broken and realized one was missing. Her friend had stolen it, saying she would find a solution to save her. But then the sky was taken over by a half moon. Liu asked if they hadn't promised each other to achieve immortality together. But if that was the case, she would have to be hunted down. She activated a moon technique that consumes the sun. Half of the continent was engulfed in shadow. Her friend, who had hidden underwater, activated a shell technique to protect herself and attacked with a water dragon. However, Liu easily tore it in half. The shell and the mountains in that place were shattered. As her friend fled, she said the weapon Liu carried was too dangerous, but Liu said she wouldn't run as they were friends for 1,000 years. She activated a stellar explosion. It began to consume the sun and headed towards her poor friend. Her friend activated a yin-yang technique to protect herself and asked what had consumed Liu. But since it was like this, neither of them would ascend to immortality. She absorbed Liu's spiritual core, starting a battle between their powers. Sometime later, her friend announced she had won. Her name was Man. Liu asked why she didn't want to ascend. Her friend said she was doing it only because they were friends. She would bring her back to normal, even if only a part of her. When she regained consciousness, she realized her friend had already moved on to the next life. These were memories Liu had forgotten. Seeing this, she cried, saying it was impossible. Someone appeared behind her, asking if she finally remembered, and she said it wasn't her. She turned angrily and announced that a like on this video had to be left, folks. Do you remember that the last chapter ended when Liu discovered that she had killed a friend? Suddenly, someone in the room called her, asking if she remembered. She turned around, saying that everything was false and asked who it was. It was the friend she had killed, telling her not to go down the wrong path again. Liu asked if she had become an immortal body. However, the place began to tremble, and she said they had a guest. She told the rabbit girl to go welcome them. Outside the Palace of Ecstasy, an explosion was occurring. It was Bai Lushan arriving and demanding his disciple back. The first to stop him was Chizuo. I don't even need to mention the girl's shape. With a smile, she said he was very late and his disciple had already become food for the Lord. Bai Lushan didn't want to talk, so he launched an attack immediately, saying she could die if necessary. Chizuo's disciples turned into blood bubbles instantly, and Bai Lushan rushed towards her to finish her off. A branch emerged from the mountains as she writhed in pain. Suddenly, a pillar almost hit Bai Lushan, who had to dodge. Above it, the rabbit elder said she would handle it. She looked at Chizuo and warned her that from now on she owed no more favors. Bai Lushan recognized her power and asked if she was the one everyone talked about. However, the naughty bunny cursed him and told him to mind his own business. Bai Lushan said she didn't need to curse, and it would be best to return his disciple now. But she made a face, sticking out her tongue and asking why she should respond to him. Losing his patience, he said that even though she was a demonic master, she wouldn't be able to stop him and stretched out his hand. Instantly, she was grabbed by the ear and realized she had no chance. Bai Lushan dropped her to the ground, telling her not to get involved anymore. However, Chizuo saw he was distracted and took the opportunity to launch an attack. She advanced, creating a pentagram with both hands around the two of them. Bai Lushan told her to calm down, but they were both caught. Pulling a creature by the horns, she warned that they would now suffer eternally. The monster radiated an aura, and the rabbit girl asked how that damn woman dared to betray her. Chizuo told her to calm down because they would be eternally united. When she opened her mouth, the creature did the same. The rabbit was desperate, while Bai was saying the poor thing didn't even deserve to die. However, he smiled, asking if they were really trying to kill him with that. An explosion of aura and flesh disintegrated. The rabbit called for her staff, but it was in the middle of a pile of thorns, and she realized she was going to fall and die there. However, someone grabbed her from behind. Bai Lushan created an aura and saved both of them. The creature in the sky was writhing with its hands destroyed. Tizuo was impressed, but the monster easily regenerated. Bai Lushan, seeing that, said that it seemed like a worrying situation as he would have to kill her until it no longer happened. Golden blades appeared and began to attack the creature until its flesh rained down. Bai Lushan seemed impressed. Tizuo's flesh was mixed with the creature's, but she began to say that the extreme pain was the true ecstasy. And suddenly, she transformed into another woman with white hair, saying that now she had found the door to immortality. Together, they could harvest blood and share the ecstasy. She attacked again, but this time she broke through his barrier. The rabbit was already immobilized, and the woman said she would absorb her aura. And soon after, she would pull the aura of the guy next to her. Bai Lushan said that if she wanted to experience him so much, he would help. With that, he released his aura into the creature's flesh. She writhed, realizing it was too much energy and was going to overflow. The next second, she exploded, and Bai said he only gave her what she asked for. A bunch of flesh fell to the ground, and the rabbit asked if she had finally died. He said it was complicated, but she was using the blood formation to connect to the Earth's veins. She reappeared, saying it was exactly like that. She wouldn't disappear as long as the Earth existed. Bai took some of his own blood and threw it at her, saying that the only way would be he use himself as a sacrifice. A golden Buddha version of him appeared, extending his hand and making his energy rain down on Tizuo. She says that no matter what he does, all he will achieve is sealing her. He replies that sealing is enough while grabbing the axe. She says that the broken axe won't do anything. However, he makes 2 cuts, and the entire ground of that place is destroyed. This makes her realize that her body no longer has a connection to the earth, and she wonders who the hell this guy is. He stretches out his hands and tells her to shrink. She tries to escape, but is surrounded by a cloud. When she opens her eyes, she is in his hand, but tiny. Being crushed, she asks what he did and begs him to let her go. He pokes her face, saying that now that she is not connected to the veins of the earth, she is just a puppet full of mana. Bai Lushan calls for the rabbit and throws the doll to her. The rabbit tries to absorb the power but falls to her knees, realizing it won't work. Bai explains that since she can absorb the earth's energy, she is basically an infinite flow. He plans to turn her into a cultivation item for his disciple, so she should take good care of it. The rabbit smiles, saying she will absorb a lot for now. Meanwhile, the chief of this place is down below asking what is happening. Mammon tells Liu once again not to get lost in this life. Suddenly, everything starts to collapse, and she asks when the rabbit will return. At that moment, Bai and the rabbit appear, with him asking if it was she who kidnapped his disciple. Liu recognizes him, and the master asks if he is her master. He confirms, and Mammon tells him to convince Liu not to try to become immortal anymore because it is a path that will only lead her to the wrong things. Bai says that right and wrong are hard to define, and she needs to keep strengthening herself along with the whole universe. Liu gets emotional, and Mammon asks what will happen if she strays from the path again. Bai says that with him there, it won't be a problem, but the master asks who gave him that right. Bai is not pleased and says that he is the master here. Something hits Mammon, and she finds herself trapped inside a trunk. Bai explains that this is his divine consciousness, or what they call a domain. She says she can't see his power and tells her not to worry about those details. She questions him about what all those corpses are, and he says they are woods he's been cutting for years, making her realize that inside each of those woods is the body of an extremely strong creature. With that, she understands why Liu trusts this guy so much, who is patting the apprentice's head, saying that he will help her a lot. Suddenly, he pulls a red aura from behind a stone and asks if Kang is part of her group. She begins to be revealed, wondering how this is possible, and he says it would be easy to find a sacred weapon like that. This scares Mammon because she hadn't noticed the girl's presence. Immobilized, Kang says that he will be in trouble when he encounters the flesh and blood ascension of this sect. Bai Lushan points to the rabbit girl, asking if she is talking about that doll there. Kang realizes that their sacred formation has been stopped. However, a yin-yang symbol appears in the middle of the mountains, and she asks if he will deal with the true immortal. The master seems scared, Bai doesn't care, and Kang smiles as the jade breaks, releasing the zombie from the chains. The rabbit warns that she will now lose control. That jade sealed Mammon's powers, who was trapped as an immortal there, and now she will go mad. Seeing Mammon's transformation, Kang cries and smiles, saying that everyone there will now die. The former master grows gigantic in the room, and Bai Lushan considers activating a purification talisman. The rabbit asks what they will do now that this has happened, while Kang smiles, saying that no one will leave there alive. Bai Lushan says she is too noisy and uses a divine item to seal voices. Mammon activates a soul piercing that goes toward the protective dome. The barrier seems to be undone, and Bai Lushan is impressed that a corpse can use a seal. But he stretches out his hand, saying that in the end, it is just a corpse. The seal he sent hits her forehead, and a purple explosion sweeps through the room. When the smoke clears, she is impressed and blushes that Bai has gone for an exploration in the mountains. She feels a bit embarrassed, but all of this has a purpose. Don't think our boy is crazy like that. When he lifts his face, he pulled out a green poison. He explains what he did, and she understands that he had no bad intentions, but instead removed the problem. Bai says he had to do this because her body could no longer remain that way, so he would fix it as much as possible. However, he warns that it will be problematic, and she might have to return to the sect with him. She seems to feel a bit awkward. He explains that they can talk after she thinks it over because now he will first take care of Kang. As he approaches, she begs, saying that she was blind and that he is a good man. Bai says that since they belong to the same sect, he will forgive her and sends an attack right to her navel. That breaks the chain that was sealing her, and she falls to her knees in agony. Bai says it is best for her to disappear from today on. The rabbit is arguing with Mammon, saying that as the master of this place, she cannot follow that guy. When Bai Lushan arrives and asks if she has decided, Mammon turns to Liu, who is smiling and calling for her. Suddenly, she falls to the ground and begs Bai Lushan to accept her as a disciple. Embarrassed, he says that is not necessary. She can just go there to heal and then come back here. But the system activates a worldwide mission at that moment. He has 3 days to make one of the disciples evolve to the immortal realm. If he fails, he will lose the system and all the spiritual power he has received. Clearly, the poor guy has no option. That same Meg in the forest, Kang was wandering around without finding her way. She knew the energy had been sealed by Bai, but she would make him pay. Suddenly, a guy in a cloak appears. It is the same friend from before, telling her to come closer so they can talk. However, Kang knows very well that Bai Lushan would not spare an ugly old man like this. The guy's face is distorting while he repeats that mountain is water and water is mountain. Another face emerges from the back of his head, saying that all appearances are realities. The neck twists, and he wants to know why he can't be Yang Sheng. She tries to activate a power, but all that is heard is a scream in the forest. Meanwhile, at Xinliuan Peak, a portal opens and a kind of tomb falls to the ground. He says it's good that he managed to obtain this, otherwise it would have been difficult to control the immortal spirit's body. He then tells them to take it inside the house quickly. Aislinn observes that the rabbit girl has now arrived. She hides, scared, especially because she had given old grass to this rabbit, who has already found her, saying it's a coincidence, warning that the grass she gave her made her suffer from diarrhea all night. Meanwhile, in the room, a sphere releases a golden energy. Bai says they will open the coffin. As soon as it is undone, the pearl breaks and Mammon appears, saying that the body can no longer contain the corpse energy. Bai says that if that is the case, everyone will have to remove the social construction known as clothing. The poor girl feels embarrassed, saying that this is not right at the moment, but he explains that it would be impossible if they didn't do that. The two feel awkward, saying it's their first time. As soon as he turns around, he is shocked and asks why they took everything off, and he tells them to put it back on because all he wants is skin-to-skin contact to facilitate key transmission. And he scolds them, saying they can't think that their master is such a person. Liu apologizes, saying she has impure thoughts. He ignores her and warns that the explosion of an immortal corpse is something dangerous, so he will teach them how to do it. Liu tells her friend to pay attention, and he warns that suppressing Mammon's power is only possible with his Supreme Kai. However, her body will not withstand so much energy at once, so he will transfer the energy to Liu first and then to her friend. After it's chi transferred, he tells her to take the energy there to the other. Liu tells her friend to calm down, that it is not very difficult. The friend suffers, and thank God, we switch to Aislinn giving a carrot to the rabbit, who is emotional about the quality of the fruits and vegetables in that place. The spiritual energy of the ki cultivated there is immense, and she is very happy, saying it is delicious. However, suddenly the thing has already disappeared. That girl with horse ears was literally the horse from before. She is angry that the rabbit ate her carrot, which as a reward delivers a bit of spiritual energy. Sometime later, Liu wakes up, and the zombie girl has returned to being human. Liu is happily celebrating, but Bai is exhausted. His entire energy was almost drained. Mammon thanks him, saying that in the thousands of years she has lived is the first time she has gained a body like this. Bai warns that she now needs to recover her energy and might even be able to come back to life. Suddenly, a green light covers the room, and Mammon says that this energy marks the birth of a demon king. Bai tells the two of them to rest while he goes to check it out. The green energy is covering the skies, and the rabbit girl looks confident. From the middle of the explosion comes a girl I will pretend never existed. It's not the same horse from before. The rabbit says that now that she's even her energy, she only needs to call her by name, and no demon will bother her. Suddenly, she is pulled, and Bai asks why she is already causing trouble as soon as she arrived. She frees herself, saying she knows very well what he was doing and warns that she was only helping Mammon fix her meridians. Aislinn comes running to him, saying she is being bullied. The horse girl comes to headbutt her, warning that she stole the radishes. Bai praises and pets her, saying she has become more agile but needs to respect her seniors. He tells everyone to go to the courtyard quickly, but thinks that the birth of a demon king is very important and will alert many people. The lights are already falling in front of the courtyard, and the guys say that the compass pointed to this place. All of them are instructors from other departments. Even the great arts instructor is there, fed up with all of this. They thought a demon was attacking that place and opened it to see what was happening, but there was Bai calmly cutting his wood. Bai asks why there are so many instructors at King Moon Peak. The redhead, scared, asks where the demon they felt is. Bai Lushan says he doesn't know much about demons. Maybe they are talking about this and calls for Wu Zai. Angxiang is frightened. Bai explains that this was the horse he had been raising for a long time and that it had recently advanced to the demonic realm. The other department masters seem impressed and congratulate him. However, Himing says that such a strong animal should be under the beasts department. Moon says it doesn't make sense since the horse belongs to Instructor Bai. However, Himing insists, saying he is still too weak to control such a powerful creature. Angxiang agrees and says he should indeed hand over the horse to everyone. Bai wants to know what happens if he doesn't do that. Angxiang, who forgot to train his legs, says he has no authority to decide here. But if he can stop him, he will respect it. Bai says that is not necessary, they can use beasts to compete. The guy is a bit confused and Bai repeats. With that, he accepts, saying it is fine. If he wins, the horse will be his. He raises his hands, creating a circle, and wings appear on his back. What appears is a demon called Naiodi. Moon wants to do something, but Himing says there is no need to interfere in their dispute. She warns that if something goes wrong, the director won't let anyone escape. However, he reassures her, saying the instructor would never cross the line. And now the test is about to begin. With that, Wu Zai finds herself face to face with the guy's demon. She is startled and he advances to punch, but she easily blocks it with her hand. Angxiang warns that Aodai is the demon he has been raising to have unparalleled strength and speed. But Bei says his creature has also advanced. With that, Wu Zai easily repels the guy's power. Angxiang asks what his monster is doing and tells it to repel this attack. With that, they keep attacking each other. The people understand that this is the easiest way to test speed, strength, and endurance. Sometime later, the candles have gone out and people are even sleeping. But they warn that the result has already been decided because it seems Ode is slowing down. Suddenly, Wu Zai breaks one of his attacks and manages to get close. Hitting him in the face, ribs, and belly, the poor guy is thrown to the ground. He is dead. Angxiang is furious because it was very difficult to get that. But Bai Lushan says that has nothing to do with him and asks if he still wants to continue. Angxiang, enraged, begins to draw a blade, but a barrel lands between the two. Another instructor announces that the winner has been decided and it would be shameful for a master to go against that. Angxiang complains that his beast was killed, and the others tell him to stop being a sore loser. Moon says that if the director finds out about this, things won't go well for him. Angry, he says it's fine and understands that everyone there is equal. He leaves, warning Bai Lushan that he won't forget this. Bai Lushan thanks everyone for being fair. He would never start something like this, but he can't lose his family. The guy with the fan compliments him, saying he's become a good man, and asks Moon if she agrees. Embarrassed, she says she doesn't know. One of them turns, saying that since there's no problem, they will leave. With that, he leaves, but Moon stays behind. Wu Zai says she is sleepy and Bai tells her to sleep, so she leaves. Suddenly, he is pulled by the collar and Moon asks if he knows about the agreement. He looks confused, wondering if this is really going to continue. Suddenly, she pulls him close and says that the elder sister will fulfill her promise. Guys, Bai got a kiss. Thank goodness it wasn't one of the disciples. She puts her hand on her mouth, embarrassed, and he is even more embarrassed. She says this is one of the most precious things and wants to know how he feels. While he asks if she came there just for this, thinking it's good she didn't get too close. She turns, saying she'll stop provoking him. She opens the path through the mountains and pulls out a talisman. She says it's an invitation to the arts department's celebration party. He wants to know if he can simply not go, but she has already disappeared in front of him. While he thinks he has no choice but to go, Sai Liu is on his back. She grabs him and asks why she came all the way there. The girl says her growth is in a plateau, and she needs help to reach the next level. But poor Bai says he has no more spiritual energy to help. She makes a crying face and tells him to come in quickly as her Kirai will return soon. With that, it was the day of the party at the arts department. This is all because they managed to monopolize one of the cultivation places. The guys there doubt they have the capability and say they sold their bodies to get it. Ru slams the table, saying they are a bunch of ungrateful dogs and shouldn't have been invited. The guys insult her, telling her to respect the sword department. She returns the insults and they prepare to draw their swords. Now with the flute, she is confident. Suddenly, Moon appears and immobilizes the two, telling everyone to keep a good atmosphere at the party. However, the guys look at each other and start shouting that they shouldn't keep all the resources of the place they conquered. She says they are just like their masters. She punches them with her energy, hitting each one in the face. The guy from the beast department appears, saying he agrees with them. He says she should hand over 90% of the resources from Mount Fambu to the school to help those in need. Ru says it doesn't make sense since those resources will be given to the beast and sword departments. The guy smiles, saying it makes sense. After all, strength is what matters in this world, not this useless instrument they use. Suddenly, there's already a line on his neck and someone playing an instrument asks who said instruments are useless. The guys are surrounded by energy and faint. Bai appears with another enemy of great proportions who introduces herself as Xiling. Ruel recognizes her. She's that girl with the giant abdomen from before whom I think the artist regretted drawing because now she says she was using a painting technique, but this is her original appearance. Moon asks how she was freed and Bai pats her on the shoulder, making her blush, and says he helped a lot and realized her power suits this place. Moon says she can accept her here, but it's best if she releases the guys who are already passing on to the next life. She plays the instrument and everyone falls to the ground, unconscious, while Bai tells her to take it easy. She fears he will punish her again. Bai doesn't punish anyone, stop lying, we know our boy. With that, the guys have to be wheeled out of the place. While Moon and Bai were talking, a messenger pigeon arrived. It was a message from the director that they were being attacked and needed everyone's help. In front of the academy, a group was gathering. They were the former owners of the place where the arts department now dominates. And because of this, they are all facing difficulties. Himi tries to say that it has nothing to do with the entire school, but he gets spat on and a lot of trash thrown in his face. The guys say that if it involves the arts department, it involves everyone there. Angry, he says that if they doubt, they can go to the arts department and discover the truth. The guys say it might be a good idea because it would be easier for them to attack by entering that way. Himi knows very well, but with Bai in the department, it would be perfect for him to send them there. Meanwhile, in the arts department, the guys are just thinking about attacking the poor girls. They say that if they handed over some slaves, it wouldn't be such a bad place. One guy starts to pull the girl's shirt, saying they must pay the price. But suddenly, a blade cuts his arm. In an instant, his body melts and he falls lifeless. The guys have no idea who did it until the blade returns to Bai's hand. He warns that this territory is his, and they better not think of doing anything there. One of the elders yells at him, saying they only came to talk, so why did he start killing? And another curses Moon, saying now he knows why she keeps rejecting him. Clearly, everyone is hating poor Bai. Hearing that the guy wanted to be a suitor makes Bai laugh. He asks Moon if she knows that guy, and she says she only saw him at a competition on the southern border. Since then, he has been coming to the academy. In the last 3 years, he has declared his love for her 200 times. Bai laughs, saying that 200 times is really a voracious persistence. He gets angry and says that was in the past. He shouldn't have proposed anything and now will end this department. Bai ignores him and apologizes, saying his elder sister unfortunately has higher standards. The other elder has to hold back the now enraged guy. Bai says if they didn't come for the department, they came for resources. The elder says that's the case because they killed several of his disciples in the secret realms. Moon says it wasn't them but the Palace of Ecstasy. The elder with horns responds that doesn't make sense because the Ecstasy Palace has already been destroyed. Moon seems surprised and Bai pretends to be surprised because he doesn't want them to know he's so strong. Bai then suggests resolving all this with a noble battle. The horned elder curses him, but the 200 times guy asks how it would work. The protagonist says each of them will send 5 disciples to win 3 fights in the battle arena. The horned elder warns to be careful because Bai Lushan has a talented disciple, but the 200 times guy is confident. He says if he wins, he will want even more resources from the arts department. Bai says there's no problem, he agrees to all conditions. The maniac says if Bai loses, he will have to be castrated. But Moon steps in and says that must never happen. If they want to castrate Bai, they will have to kill her first. The guy says if they want to die and live together, he will grant that. Bai says fine, since he wants to kill her, he will have to balance that bet. If he wins, he wants their heads. Explosion in the middle of the arena, and one of the arts department girls has already lost. People are just celebrating. The guy warns Bai that it's better he begs. But clearly Bai doesn't seem very worried. The guy gets angry, being ignored, but knows Bai will regret it when he loses. Suddenly, Moon arrives and brings Sai leave to fight. The guy smiles and calls Moon over. She asks what he wants and he says she should know very well that her disciples are no match, so he will give her a chance to retreat. She ignores him, saying her disciples are not weak, and goes to talk to Bai, leaving the fool behind. Then another attack sweeps the arena, destroying the upper layer of skin that covered one of the challengers. She calls him a pervert, and it becomes clear that he targeted that spot directly. The guy says his weapon is spiritual and she should give up or he will continue with these attacks. She summons the flute, saying it's time to play seriously. Immediately, his sword withers and he wonders what the hell she did. She declares that they are all worthless and with a single note explodes the arena, pushing the guy back. The people on stage are impressed and he gets up, wondering if his treasure will stay like that forever. The 200 times guy is angry, wanting to know why she carries something so valuable. Bai laughs and says he will also hand one over if he kneels and begs. The horned elder tells the guy to calm down, saying he's losing his mind. He then tells the guy that no matter how good someone's weapon is, it won't matter if they don't have the power to use it, and that his sect has someone specialized in fighting against women. The people on stage smell feces. The guy comes literally rotten, and Wu wonders who the disgusting person is. He approaches, calling her name, introducing himself as Lai Haixing, and saying he hopes she will guide him. She says it will be impossible since her nose is itching. Bai tells her to come up and rest and let her sister take care of it. She didn't want to leave, but her master tells her to be obedient and put on some clothes. The stinky guy says it doesn't matter who he fights against. Youngsi introduces herself and says she expects a good fight, but suddenly the guy charges at her. He throws a punch, but she manages to defend herself. The only problem is that the smell spreads and everyone on stage starts fainting. Haiming steps in and says Bai better fight soon or the arts department will be destroyed. The The guy with the fan pulls out a small bag and says it will improve the smell. He explains that the guy's smell is because he strengthened himself in the wrong way, and it's something that can't be reversed. It's called stinky energy. One of them explains that to cultivate it, you need to stay in Manhwa for a long time. The chief says he never imagined the guy would have the courage, but he spent 15 years doing it. Hearing the two's conversation, Bae thinks that if they could bathe the guy, it would be good. Hu says it will be dangerous. She stayed there for a minute against the guy, and her consciousness was almost destroyed. That's when Sing-Yi sent a water attack that passed through him. Submerged, he said the bad smell would never be removed with something simple. But suddenly, he started spinning, and the thing spread to everyone. Fing-Yi was protecting herself, but realized it wasn't enough. The other masters wanted to stop it now. Moon told Bai Lushan it was better to admit defeat in this match. He said the girl was indeed in a difficult position and told Liu Wei it was her turn now. Raving said the girls from the arts department were really a shame, a bunch of actresses. At that moment, Bai Lushan canceled his defense, making the fool swallow Manhwa. He vomited and tried to retaliate by attacking him, but he was quickly immobilized by the other instructor. They were about to start fighting when they noticed something. Sai Liu had struck the guy with lightning, saying it wasn't worth fighting a stinky person. The 200 times guy said it was good to change the person, but the chief said he wasn't dead. He said it was impossible, just look at how burned he was. But then they noticed he had used the lightning to modify his own body. Angxiang said he was turning his body into something immaculate, and it was better to stop that. Or at least Tai Liu should take the chance to finish him, but she remained still. He didn't understand. Instead of finishing him, she sat down and started practicing. He went to scold Bai Lushan, who didn't seem to care about anything. The chief warned them not to be afraid when they lose. They will all practice the stinky technique. Angxiang strangely seemed excited and said he would make everyone practice it. They went to tell Bai Lushan that Sai Liu was risking too much. However, he simply replied that if she did that, it was because she was confident. After all, compared to that guy, his disciple was much more powerful. Suddenly, the stinky guy exploded in the arena, declaring that he was now invincible. And today, he would make a privileged person like her understand the difference between them. He was all bulked up and clean, feeling full of himself. But she just pointed at his legs, which hadn't evolved. He wondered why his evolution was incomplete. She said to call the next one because it was impossible for him to defeat her in that state. Everyone there understood it was true. Himing went to criticize Tai Liu for being weak until Moon smacked him on the head. However, Angxiang told him to calm down because it wasn't over. The stinky guy was going mad, saying he wanted to become an immortal. Sai Liu told him it was better to stop or he would go insane on this path. But he was already getting gigantically muscular. He said this body would evolve as much as he wanted. He jumped towards her, giving her a like in this video to help Mamoru make more juicy content for his viewers, activate the cheeky little bell, and I'm out. And you remember that the last chapter ended with Sai Liu fighting against that stinky guy. The guy had just transformed and was all buff, asking if she was scared now. When Sai Liu saw that he hadn't fully transformed, she said that the fight didn't make sense. The people in the audience thought that it seemed the stinky guy really wasn't going to win, and Himing kept saying that they were two useless people on the battlefield. Yunru made a friendly gesture and Himing cursed at her, asking how she had the nerve to do something like that to a senior, but soon got another hit on the head. Moon warned that if he said something like that again, she would have to break the rules. Angxiang told Heming to calm down and focus on the competition, that the guy would win. In the middle of the arena, the stinky cultivator kept repeating to himself that he would become an immortal. But Sai Liu warned that if he didn't stop, he would lose control. He started saying it was her fault and jumped at her to punch. But with Moon's blade, she only delivered a spiritual attack of light lightning. In an instant, the poor guy fell to the ground shattered. He didn't want to accept defeat, but it was over. The master arrived and said it was no use fighting anymore. He announced that from today, he was no longer a disciple of their sect. The stinky guy begged, saying he would return and stay as long as necessary in the Manhwa. But the chief said his time had passed and kicked him out of the arena. Sometime later, he was wandering through the forest, exhausted. He fell to the ground, questioning what he had done wrong, why he couldn't cultivate, and why the world was so unfair. He soon collapsed to the ground and fainted. Someone approached and asked if he wanted revenge. It was clear that it was Bai doing something. What he received was a 3-star rejuvenation talisman. He quickly realized that all of his wounds had disappeared. Bai said that not only was he healed, but he also now had a strengthened body and asked if he wanted revenge. The stinky guy was excited, but he wanted to know why Bai was helping him. Bai said it was because he felt they were similar since he too had been abandoned by others. The guy replied that it was impossible since Bai had received a gift from the gods. Bai said he could believe what he wanted, but he was leaving, and if he wanted revenge, it was best that no one knew he had been there. With clenched fists, he knew that whether he liked it or not, this was the only solution he had. So he begged Professor Bai. On his knees, he said that he, Haixing, was willing to follow any instruction. Bai said it seemed he was worth teaching. The guy immediately asked when they would start, and Bai told him to lower his pants. The guy awkwardly said he didn't imagine Instructor Bai charged this price, but Bai just asked what he was talking about and told him to take them off quickly. Apparently, the guy would do anything for power because he said it was fine, It was his first time, and he just asked Bai to be gentle. At that moment, Bai started stomping on him, asking what he was thinking, warning that this was just to check his health and that if he thought anything like that again, he would be castrated. The guy continued graciously, saying he understood now and would take them off. Bai crouched and analyzed him. He pinched his nose and told the guy to pull them up again, but warned it would be painful. Strangely, Haixing started saying that the spiritual power was filling him. Bai said if he kept shouting, he would be killed. Meanwhile, in the arts department, a highly respected fight was going on. The red-haired girl named Zhu Lai told Sai Liu to give up because she had a much lower rank. But Sai Liu said she was shameless for having such a high rank and still wanting to compete against her. The girl replied that she would do anything to win and activated a formation called the 9th Palace. Immediately, a bunch of green dragons went towards Sai Liu. Everyone thought that fight was one-sided while Moon wondered where Bai was. Himing said that as soon as he saw Sai Liu defeated, he would die with her. But she replied that even if she had to sell her own body, she wouldn't let anything happen to Bai's disciple. At that moment, our boy appeared, telling her not to say something so devastating. Obviously, not without making a stone fall on the head of a guy who was trying to talk to Moon. And he said that as long as Tai Liu didn't give up, no one would know the result. But Himing warned that the formation the girl Zhu Lai used was extremely dangerous. Bai said it was okay. Sai Liu had potential and knew how to handle it. Even though her clothes were suffering intense attacks, he was confident she would succeed. Sai Liu admitted that the girl was strong as she summoned her moon wheel. However, suddenly she seemed restored again, saying it was a pity that this was the most she could do. Zhu Lei found it strange, wondering how Sai Liu seemed unaffected. But now Sai Liu was confident and overpowered her. In a second, she was behind her, and the girl didn't know what happened. Sai Liu cut through her formation and told her to try something different. Zhu Lai then said it was time to use this and summon a purple aura, a formation called 1,000 Souls. Himing was scared, and even Angxiang said it was getting dangerous. Moon recognized it as a heretical formation, but Zhu Li's sect members said no one could judge what they used. Moon called them shameless and told Bai he had to save Sai Liu. However, Bai seemed calm and said things were just beginning. This left Moon scared, and people found it strange that he was so calm. In the battle, Zhu Lai said it didn't matter that Sai Liu was good at breaking formations, as she didn't know this kind of creature. Sai Liu was being grabbed by a deformed monster with a giant hand. At that moment, Zhu Li ordered for her body to be broken. Everyone was shocked while Bai smiled. Sai Liu lost 15% of her body, and the other 85% fell to the ground. Seeing the head bleeding, everyone was sure she was dead. The guy started laughing, saying it would be great to take advantage of Moon, who was already going crazy because it wasn't supposed to be a life or death competition. Bai told her to calm down and said it wasn't time to act yet. She was about to speak about her disciple, but he said the competition wasn't over. Zhu Li approached the head, saying she thought the girl had some kind of power but was just a sheep in wolf's clothing. Suddenly, a cocoon appeared behind Zhu Lai, and Sai Liu emerged with her body covered by oxygen. Zhu Lai said it was impossible since her head was right there. However, on the ground, it had turned into a piece of ice. The girl asked how she was using demonic powers, but Sai Liu said they were just ghostly powers. Zhu Lai started thinking that this girl was very scary and that she had to stop her. What she didn't see was that the blade was already coming and hit her side directly. Sai Liu threw her against the wall and was now even wearing Ezelin's clothes. Zhu Lai was smashed against the wall, and Sai Liu was getting more stretched horizontally with each panel. She had eaten an item that Ezelin had given her, which had this substitution effect. The audience thought it was impossible. They started saying she must have cheated because it was impossible to defeat someone so much stronger. Bai said it didn't matter. Now that the result was out, they should do what they promised. The guys asked if Bai would really kill them, not knowing who they were. But the protagonist ignored them and asked if he had to kill them or if they would do it. The guy replied he forced him to. And at that moment, he exploded, activating a parasite curse. Everyone quickly realized he was hiding all his power. Seeing him transform, they knew that even together, they wouldn't win. He then flew towards Bai, telling him to die. Out of nowhere, Moon threw him aside, telling him to be careful. With that, the ground exploded and she sighed in relief. Bai said she didn't need to squeeze so hard, while the demonic guy was losing his mind because Bai had survived. Our boy smiled, asking the demon why he was so angry. He disappeared in a flash and already had a giant Saitama hand on his face. One punch exploded the entire arena, and the fools couldn't believe it. The guy was trembling on the ground while Bai said dying from one punch was pathetic. He looked at another who had already kneeled, begging for forgiveness, saying he just wanted to stay alive. Bai then left, saying people were already hunting for his head, so he didn't care. Seeing that Moon was still holding his clone, he said she could keep it. She hugged the little Earth Bai, saying that was the compensation, while Angxiang couldn't believe Bai had won with one punch. Now they realized they were screwed because Bai would be after them. They started leaving in a hurry, and everyone asked why the rush. Now everyone in the sect was sure Bai had regained his former powers. Seeing him from afar, they were sure it was a good thing. He patted Sai Liu, who said she wanted a little clay Bai too. He asked why she wanted it, and she said she had her own plans. Meanwhile, At the ruins of the Palace of Ecstasy, some people arrived and wondered why everything was destroyed there. They went to investigate, but seeing the crater, they had no idea of the strength of whoever passed through there. Suddenly, the clouds opened and they asked what that was. Their eyes seemed to be entering some sort of trance, thinking it was the Great Tao. Even the protection amulet the girl carried broke. The two guys without protection were mutilating themselves, and she was wondering what that was. Seeing the Alliance's treasure broken, they had no idea what was about to emerge. And from the middle of the light, the demon Keksu, which was part of Sai Liu's body, appeared, saying it was a pity he didn't allow her to ascend. As the ground was being destroyed, the girl used a talisman to alert the Alliance. After drawing energy from the ground, the demon said she had finally found her best friend, Man after so many years. Meanwhile, on Bei's mountain, he was cutting trees when the system appeared, warning that the heavenly skies were watching him. To ensure his safety, the maximum amount of energy he could use was restricted. Additionally, unless in special circumstances, he was not to use the axe for anything other than cutting wood. Bai Lushen realized he was being watched by the gods of that world. He asked how much energy he could use now that he was restricted. The system said that to avoid attracting attention, only 10%. He knew that in this case he had about the strength of the Academy Master. He then proclaimed that now that he was weak, he needed some compensation. The system gave him an explosive doll. He got angry and asked how that could be called a weapon. Strangely, the thing started to glow. In the saunas, the girls were saying the master was very generous for giving so many pills to the disciples. Holding them in her hands, she said that it forced someone to advance 3 levels automatically. However, Sai Liu wanted Bai to help her with this evolution. Man explained that this pill required physical contact, which might be why he preferred to avoid it. After consuming it, she said she felt very well and it wasn't difficult to use it, until she felt an electric energy and warned that something was wrong. Man said nothing wrong would happen, and with that their energies started to collide. Sai Liu was there suffering. From a distance, the other girls noticed she had evolved. Seeing Bai Lushen burying the gift, the system told him to at least test it, but those lightning bolts seemed strange to Bai. Even Man wondered what kind of aura that was. Bai, seeing the mountain enveloped by a golden light, found it all very sinister. That's when he saw that the barrier had been broken by one of the lightning bolts. He knew it was right in the direction where Sai Liu and Man were. Everyone on the mountain was being pummeled by the lightning bolts, and Bai said he knew she was there, so she should appear. In the middle of the clouds, Keksu appeared and seeing Bai said he was interesting. He asked who she was and why she was attacking his disciple. The demon said he was an incredible master for protecting everyone from an immortal. Hearing this, Bai asked if she was the person related to Man. The psycho laughed up there, saying that it seemed Man still remembered her. With a distance-reducing technique, in 1 second, she was in front of Bai, asking if Man was okay. Giving a slash, Bai said yes, but now she was an immortal corpse. The girl appeared behind him, saying that fit well with Man. She started smiling, saying they could go eat dragon meat with everyone together. But Bai told her to stop joking because he knew she wanted Sai Liu's body. The girl warned that Sai Liu was the center of one of the bodies she possessed. And then she attacked Bai, telling him to die. The attack split the mountain in half. However, he had survived and told everyone to escape immediately. Seeing the place split in two, he was shocked by that power. Down below, the girls were all confused and scared, not knowing who was up there. Bai warned everyone not to take a step outside the formation while he took care of it. He turned to the system, saying it was a special situation and demanded the axe. Now with it in hand, he said the situation had changed. Even the system warned him to be careful. Using divine speed, he appeared in front of her, saying it was just a bigger tree. The skies exploded and the girls thought he was crazy to act like that against an immortal. He continued striking her and activated Shura's manifestation, sending the light formation towards her barrier. The attack pierced the barrier and she appeared, saying it was painful. Bleeding, she said it was unbelievable to have such a strong mortal. The system warned Bai to be careful as she was going to get serious. The demon broke his system and said that in a fight against her, he couldn't be distracted. Bai said it would be as she wished. She activated Amira's glow and attacked with lasers, but he made Shura's protection. Seeing him approach, she knew he was blocking the attack with the formation while advancing physically. The axe attack cut some branches but was blocked by another. She liked the weapon and said she would have to integrate it with hers. Bai asked why an immortal had descended there for his disciple's body. The girl said he wasn't wrong, she had indeed become an immortal. However, the higher realms were nothing but many small worlds, each dominated by its immortal, and that wasn't what she wanted. She wanted to find something beyond the skies. She wanted to become the sky itself and the laws that define the earth. Bai replied that it was too much greed. He leaped towards her, telling her to return to the sacred realm. His attack created a crack in space. Confused, she had no idea how he did that. Bai grabbed her by the clothes and threw her off the planet. However, before the crack closed, she appeared again, saying he wasn't the only one who knew how to open space, and he wouldn't be the one to stop her from becoming the sky itself. The system warned that Keksu had damaged the connection with the divine world. Now it was connected to the mortal realm. From the higher realms, a strange liquid started to fall. Everything it touched was consumed and no one knew what it was. Lightning continued to strike. and the only thing stopping it was Bai in the middle of everything. He didn't understand why everything was being destroyed and wanted to know what she had done up there. The system warned that the mortal realm was being invaded and would soon be destroyed. Meanwhile, Kexu was enjoying it, saying she would finally become part of the heavens. With her hands directed at Bai, she asked how he would defeat the sky itself. His eyes were glowing as he was surrounded. From within the formation, he activated a divine talisman and immediately destroyed it. The remains rained down over the entire mountain. Then the unknown substance began to emerge from the ground and attack everyone, until one of the lightning bolts struck and destroyed Ezelin. Man warned that they had to leave immediately, or they would all die. Only Bai could fight that. And speaking of him, the boy was now glowing gold like a gigachad. However, the system warned that he was exceeding the allowed power limit. He ignored it and said he would show her what the power of the heavens was. As he advanced, he said he would cut his own divinity. Kexu said it was impossible for someone so strong to exist in the mortal realm. Dissolving, she realized he had the axe of creation, and said it seemed she never had a chance. Watching her disappear, Bai thought she was crazy. Maybe everyone who pursued immortality ended up like that. Seeing the axe disintegrate, he said he had worked hard today. With that, golden light rained down, and everyone realized it was finally over. But strangely, Liu seemed unwell, saying she couldn't take it anymore. Man called everyone, saying there was something wrong with her body. Bai approached, asking what had happened. He asked to see, and Liu asked for help. The girls thought it was fine with Bai, but he warned that the problem was she had missed the final part of the evolution process. They needed someone who had recently been punished by the heavenly thunder to complete her process. Ezelin, who had been fried, said they really needed to find someone, but then realized everyone was staring at her, so they used the lightning from her to strike Liu. A while later, she woke up, realizing she had finally completed the golden core. She asked where they got the lightning, and he said she had been lucky. While Ezelin was once again wrecked on the ground, he told them to be careful because he was going to rebuild the peak for now. Meanwhile, in her own higher realm, Kexu said she would be back soon. Bai was now broke and needed money to rebuild everything, while the system told him he had to go to a specific place to receive new disciples. He was curious and asked what the blue bar on the system was. It indicated how long the new disciple had to live. Meanwhile, the girls were setting up tents to sleep. Then Bai's bird arrived and told them to go to the teleport gate. In front of the teleport, Bai said they were going in search of the new junior. Meanwhile, in the city of Wuling, some hooded men were asking if everything was ready, and a man replied that it was. He ordered the guards to open the formation. The hooded ones entered and warned that if they managed to stop those people, they would receive rewards. At the door, he said that as soon as that immortal alliance arrived, these beasts would receive justice. The head of the Liu family said that an assassin was in the city, so he couldn't let her go. The girl started to remove her hood, saying she had to break the engagement because her parents wouldn't allow it. Her name was Nalan Dodo. She cried, telling her uncle she could fight alone. Her uncle told her not to do anything stupid because her parents trusted him. Right then, someone stepped in, saying they underestimated the Blood Sword Palace. Holding dead guards, they said the information had leaked. Crying, the uncle said the girl was only 19 and their family had already lost 163 members, so why wouldn't they stop? A man appeared beside him, saying it was because the palace master wanted it. Before dying, the uncle told Dodo to run and was blown up. Meanwhile, in the sky, Bai was on his tuned carpet. Dodo's picture appeared in the system. It showed that she was the one who broke the engagement with a guy named Xiaoping. That's because once, as a child, he went mad. Considering the broken engagement a humiliation, Xiaoping began massacring the entire Nalan family. The system said that this was the information, and Bai found the story quite ordinary. However, at that moment, the system turned red, warning that she was about to die. With that, Bai accelerated and they vanished from that place. In front of Duoduo, they warned her to return to the Blood Palace and nothing would happen. But if she insisted, all of her family members there would also die. The girl replied that if her family was spared, she would go with them. The man said that when she returned, she would be well treated by the chief. However, one of them suddenly threw something in her family and another struck her in the stomach. Falling, she said they were liars and warned she would fight them to the death. But she quickly realized something was wrong with her spiritual power. She fell to the ground and the blonde man said he had warned her. Now that she was completely sealed, they would avoid any unforeseen events. With that, the men began to leave, saying the reward would be good. But they noticed an energy coming from the sky that exploded in front of them. The blonde man asked who dared to go against the Blood Palace. Of course, it was Bai, who told them to lay the girl on the ground. He warned that at least their deaths wouldn't be painful. Once again, the men said they were from the Blood Palace and asked if he would rob them, and Bai confirmed. He made a gesture with his finger and stole Dodo's body. The man tried to intensify the seal, but Bai just closed his hand and destroyed what the man was doing. Once again, he insisted, and Bai asked if he really wanted to compete to see who was stronger. With that, the seal was destroyed and the man was in disbelief. Bai rescued her, covered by oxygen in the sky, and told the disciples to take care of those men. They said they understood, and he disappeared. The Blood Sword madmen lived up to their name and began to summon a blade, sending a blood slash that Liu easily dodged. but he used an explosion art, and the power followed her. Seeing this, Ezelin knew there was no escape. Each drop of blood had turned into a clone, and he just needed one to escape to pass the information. But Ezelin had stretched her web, and they were trapped and shredded. The trap that had surrounded Sai Liu was also destroyed, and she just called out the name of her weapon. The ground began to crack, and the men asked how someone of such a low level had so much power. In that moment, a light flashed, and they were shattered, while Bai transferred energy to the new disciple. She suffered and woke up with him asking if she felt uncomfortable. She went to slap the rascal, who told her to calm down. He said he was just saving her, and she asked what kind of salvation destroyed her clothes. Bai told her to stop moving as he was almost finished. She then asked who he was and why he was helping. He replied that he had finished and said he was just the talisman instructor of the academy, asking if she wanted to become his disciple. She recognized the name, asking if he was the famous Trash, which made him a bit embarrassed. He said he needed to repair a bit more, and she told him to be gentle. A little later, the disciples had brought the men. Duduo was impressed because she had been defeated easily. The first thing Sai Liu told Duduo was to take her eyes off her Bai, and she turned saying she was lucky to have the chance to become his disciple. The girl found it unusual that so many strong people followed someone known as Trash, concluding that he was probably strong and remembering Xiaoping. She went to Bai and knelt asking to be the new disciple. Bai accepted her and took out 2 books for her. But Duduo said she had suffered an energy deviation and could no longer cultivate. He then asked if she wanted him to destroy the Blood Palace, and she bowed her head, thanking and pleading. But our boy questioned if she really believed the hatred would disappear along with the palace. He said cultivation was about the purity and clarity of thoughts. That was her destined challenge, and he couldn't solve it. Duduo seemed to go crazy, saying Xiaoping was much stronger and more talented, so she would never achieve revenge. Bai just threw a calm talisman on her and told her to listen. With him around, talent meant nothing, and he would personally ensure she won. She seemed not to believe, and he said he never lied, and that would be the first lesson. He handed her something, and she asked what it was. Bai pointed to the men on the ground and told her to use the most horrible method she knew to get rid of those 2. After hesitating for a second, Duduo said she would do it. Meanwhile, in the Blood Palace, the disciples there were curious to know what the master would do with Duduo when she arrived. While one had already been cut down, the other was thinking he would get to enjoy it too. He was about to turn to ask why the guy wasn't speaking when he had already been sliced. 2 extremely horizontal and dangerous girls were commenting that they were going to kill the so-called Xiaoping. The blue-haired sister named Moxie asked why they were risking themselves for that guy, and the pink-haired one named Morin said she wasn't doing it because of a man. What she wanted was the mark that would allow her to access the secret abode. Moxie said they wouldn't be able to win, and her sister replied that's why they stole the talismans. With that, they were motivated to go kill the guy, until everything started shaking and they wondered what was happening. Someone was invading that place. In the sky, Bai was arriving with a group of disciples. Jumping down, he warned that he would ignore anyone below the Dawn Realm. Looking up, the people of the palace wondered who was invading, while the so-called Xiaoping just watched calmly, until a soul in his ring told him to summon the blood puppet, or it would be too late. He asked the ancestor who was coming that he feared so much. The ancestor said he didn't know how, but the person was at a low cultivation stage. Bai delivered a punch that swept the place. Seeing everything desolate, he realized he had used too much force. But down below, there was a blood aura, and he realized the target was still alive. The high-density sisters were still nearby. One wanted to go kill Xiaoping, who was alive, and the other thought it was too dangerous. Mohan said there was nothing to fear because she had an escaped talisman and at least wanted to see Xiaoping die. With that, they activated the talisman to hide, and Bai recognized them as the wild sisters of the Mo family. But he wouldn't care about them as long as they didn't get involved. After all, the priority was not letting Xiaoping escape. From within the curse, Xiaoping asked the ancestor when he would get out of there, who replied that it was impossible, all they could do was bargain. With that, he appeared and asked who Bai was. He replied with his name, saying he was an instructor at Kim Hong Academy. Mohan screamed, saying that was the famous guy who had lost his powers, remembering that 10 years ago he was considered a genius. Moxa then asked if her sister admired instructor Bai. Xiaoping then questioned Bai about why the academy was attacking that place. He replied that it had nothing to do with the academy and was about his disciple who wanted revenge. And he snapped his fingers, saying Xiaoping knew very well the reason. He warned that if Xiaoping defeated his disciple in a duel to the death, he would let him escape. At that moment, Dudu appeared. Xiaoping recognized her and asked if he would really be released if he defeated her. Bai said yes, and Xiaoping warned that she would be badly hurt. But our boy replied that it didn't matter. The revenge was hers, so he wouldn't interfere. Xiaoping started laughing, saying that it seemed she wanted to die, and he told her to come at him. Hesitant, Dudu said she would. Bai told her to just use the treasure he gave her, and there was no way to lose. Sai Liu, on the other hand, seemed worried. Xiaoping was many realms above the girl, and it was basically a death sentence. Bai told them to relax. He wouldn't let anything happen to her. Ezelin asked if he really wouldn't do anything. Bai turned to her and said of course she would save the girl if anything went wrong, as she wasn't on vacation. With that, Sai Liu shouted for Dodo, who was already immobilized by Xiaoping, saying it was pathetic to have sent her like that. But now that she was captured, she would be humiliated and tortured in front of her master. But Duoduo warned that he would be the one to suffer. And she opened her mouth with a like talisman that helps Mamoru make more juicy content for his viewers, activate the cheeky little bell, and I'm out.